Hello, my name's Sam Rankin. I'm from Melbourne and I'm doing my first solo Melbourne Fringe show this year, 2014, and it's called YAWP Sheeple, and it's about conspiracy theories.
My name is Chelsea Hughes and I'm performing in my first Fringe show this year in a show called Free Little Gigs at the Imperial.
My name's Anthony Jeannot. I am doing a show called Anthony Jeannot is Unacceptable at the Sea Urchin Room at Tuxedo Cat Melbourne at Melbourne Fringe.
Melbourne Fringe is just such a far more relaxing, interesting and weird vibe.
I think it celebrates independent artists, and I certainly consider myself an independent artist. I don't know if I'm breaking boundaries necessarily, but I certainly think being a sort of mid-30s mother doing stand-up comedy makes me a boundary pusher on some level.
So that if it's crap, I have time to fix it before Comedy Festival.
And I think I'm not somebody who's always gigging or doing a lot of stand-up. It's not sort of my forte. I like to sort of write shows and write for sort of themes. But if I come upon a theme, like an idea that I really love, it just fits so perfectly in Fringe because Fringe is so welcoming.
I think for me it's about finding the material that I've been doing over the last few months and figuring out what of that I will put into the show that I'm doing. And it's really about sort of piecing together with a very fine needle and thread all the jokes that I've been writing over the last 10 months and figuring out how that tells a longer story.
I always find it more fun to write than I do to perform anyway, because I think it's easier, and also if it's not good, you don't know. Like everything is a killer joke on paper.
The most challenging thing is keeping an eye on your own progress by yourself. Since I did a show with a mate 2 years ago with another performer, you sort of had an idea of process and you would make big jumps, I think, in terms of characters and things, because over like an afternoon, you would talk out and come up with 5 ideas and sort of feel like there was big jumps going forward. So you never felt like you were behind at all.
Yeah, I think just getting an hour out is, you see people do it at the Comedy Festival every year and you go, oh, how hard could it be? And then sitting down and writing it, and I think there's nothing worse than writing a massive chunk and taking it to a comedy night and having it work and going, sweet, that must have been 10 minutes, it's 4.
And also just finding the structure in that and finding, learning about the mechanics of a longer set and how to open, how to close, how to make the jokes that I have even better in that longer space.
The two things I've found for this show and for other stuff, constantly doing things and talking and performing, even if it's like by yourself, and standing up and saying words aloud. Because I think if you're writing and you could sort of see it and say it and in your head or go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Once you start actually standing up and talking and even doing motions, I think you go so much further in your ideas.
So in terms of what inspires my creativity, I think at the moment it's my own tragedy.
Now I have a 3.5-year-old, so most of my creativity either comes directly from her or I have to actually set aside a very specific amount of time to think about material, especially if it's not about her. And so that is really hard. I'm a very structured person, but it's also really hard to force your creativity into a box like that.
Everybody who's willing to pay $15 at 9:45 p.m. on the nights that it's on.
I'd like 2 groups. I'd like open-minded people who would come and know a little bit about conspiracy theories, maybe like JFK moon landing, like sort of the edges, or be like, oh yeah, I sort of understand it. I'd like some people who know a bit about that.
Everyone should come to my show.
And I think I would really like I'd love to talk to people who are into conspiracy theories and who believe in them.
I may be talking about my 3-year-old daughter, but you may be identifying with what pain I'm feeling rather than the story itself.